Okay, let's jump right into a huge question. What if Europe had its very own nuclear shield, one that was completely independent from the United States? It's a bold and, frankly, revolutionary idea, and we're going to unpack it today. This is a proposal that could completely rewrite the rulebook on global security.
And this quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly frames the entire debate. The thinking behind this is that Europe can't afford to just borrow its security anymore. In a world where alliances are shifting and new threats are popping up, supporters of this idea say it's not just an option, it's become a necessity. So why is this massive proposal even on the table? Well, it all comes down to one core strategic dilemma that Europe is facing right now. Look, for decades, the deal has been pretty simple. Europe has stood safely under the American nuclear umbrella, and it's been a very reliable shield. But the world is getting more and more unpredictable, and that's forcing a really tough question. What happens if that umbrella, for whatever reason, is one day pulled away? That feeling of dependence is now being seen as a major vulnerability, and it's what's driving this search for a shield that Europe can hold for itself. Okay, so if that's the problem, what's the proposed solution we're talking about? It's a concept with a pretty official-sounding name, the European Strategic Deterrence Force, or FDE for short.
Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand what this is not. The FDE is not a new European army. It's much better to think of it as a security roof for the whole continent. It's kind of like the ultimate life insurance policy. Its one and only job would be to control the nuclear deterrent. It would work alongside national armies, not replace them.
And when you hear a number like 100,000 personnel, don't picture 100,000 soldiers with rifles. No. Think more along the lines of scientists, engineers, and cybersecurity experts. This would be a super elite core of specialists focused on just one thing, managing the incredibly complex tech behind this nuclear shield.
So, we have this elite force. How would this shield actually, work? Well, the plan relies on a classic, time-tested military strategy known as the nuclear triad. The whole idea here is pretty simple, really. It's all about guaranteeing a response. By spreading your deterrent across the sea, the air, and the land, you make it practically impossible for an attacker to take it all out in a single surprise attack. The point is, no matter what happens, Europe would always have the ability to strike back. That's the very heart of nuclear deterrence.
All right, let's break this triad down. First up, the sea. This is what you call the ultimate survival guarantee. We're talking about a fleet of nuclear-powered submarines constantly and silently patrolling the deepest parts of the ocean. Because they're pretty much undetectable, they make sure that a devastating response is always on the table, no matter what's happening on the surface.
The next layer takes us from the depths of the ocean to the skies. This is the agile air component. Think advanced stealth aircraft, maybe even working with autonomous drones, designed to be a flexible, rapid response option that can punch through even the most sophisticated air defenses out there.
And finally, we have the third leg of the triad, the land-based element. This would be a network of hypersonic missiles. These things are just unbelievably fast, traveling at over 5 times the speed of sound and able to maneuver on their way to a target. They are designed to be almost impossible to stop with any current technology, making them a very powerful stabilizing force.
Okay, so a triad like this sounds impressive on paper, but it immediately brings up some huge, real-world questions. Like, who are these 100,000 specialists, and where on earth would you put all this advanced hardware?
Well, the plan is all about sharing the load. It's not about one country doing all the heavy lifting. Each nation's contribution of experts would be figured out based on things like its population, its GDP, and its technological base. What you end up with is Europe's biggest economies providing the most specialists.
And as for where you'd put the land-based missiles, the blueprint suggests scattering 10 strategic bases across the continent. And their locations aren't random. They'd be spread out everywhere from the Arctic all the way down to the Mediterranean to make sure there's 360-degree coverage, that the system can survive an attack, and to really symbolize that this shield is protecting every single corner of the Union.
All right, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the money. A project of this unimaginable scale raises one giant question. What is the price tag for this kind of strategic autonomy, and who's going to foot the bill?
The financial plan breaks the cost down into 2 very different stages. First, there's an intense 10 to 15-year deployment phase. This is the big one, covering all the research, development, and construction. After that, it shifts to a long-term and significantly cheaper phase of just operating and maintaining everything.
So let's talk about that initial investment. Brace yourself. The analysis puts the annual cost at somewhere around 100 billion euros per year for those first 10 to 15 years. Now that is a staggering number, I get it, but to put that into perspective, it comes out to about 0.6% of the EU's total GDP. Proponents argue that's a manageable price to pay for this level of security.
And the good news, if you want to call it that, is that once the whole system is actually built and up and running, the ongoing yearly cost to maintain the shield would be roughly cut in half. That would cover salaries, upgrades, and all the operational expenses for the whole triad.
And just like with the personnel, no one's expected to pay for this alone. The costs would be shared. The financial contributions would be weighted, again, based on each member state's economic muscle, making sure the project is a collective European effort from the beginning to the end.
So, all of this, the incredible tech, the immense cost, the huge political challenges, it all leads us back to one final massive question. Is this whole blueprint a dangerous fantasy, historical necessity, or is it just Europe finally waking up to the realities of the 21st century? That right there is the multi-trillion euro question that this blueprint leaves us